Welcome to the Consulting Leaders Podcast, where we talk about the business of consulting. Whether you're looking to grow your practice or learn from the stories of leaders in consulting, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Guillaume Jouvencel, ex-PwC and co-founder of GHA Marketing. Join me as I interview the best consultants in their niche. Let's get on with the show.
Welcome to Consulting Leaders Podcast, a place where we talk about the business of consulting. Whether you're looking to grow your own practice or learn from the stories of leaders in consulting, you're in the right place. I'm your host, John Degnan. Join me now as we talk to one of the best consultants in their niche. Today, we welcome Ciara Lewin, founder and CEO of Elite Precision Consulting, a global advisory firm helping organizations scale across borders with clarity and strategic structure. With over 20 years of international consulting, she works with executives and founders to align operations, capital strategy, and global expansion. Here, we're going to learn more about founders' misunderstandings of raising capital, why structure matters more than passion, and how consultants can guide organizations through complex global growth. Ciara, welcome.
Yes, thank you so much, John, for having me today. I'm really excited to have this discussion with you.
It's great to have you here. We really appreciate it. I read about you in Magnate magazine, and one thing that struck me is that you really believe very important to encourage your clients to spend time in nature connecting with their inner selves. I've never heard that one before.
Yes. I think with business in general, we get really bogged down with all the expectations and deadlines. And really, the more that I find, the more that you're in touch with yourself, kind of aligned with yourself, it flows better in your organization and in your overall vision and execution. So, yes, spending time in nature, meditating, I think is very important as consultants, as entrepreneurs, as leaders, that we really spend time, with ourselves and really take the time to just kind of degress and maybe de-stimulate with all the information that we get on a day-to-day basis. Our slogan, our tagline is manifesting business serenity. So that means, still enabling organizations to reach their goals and their targets, but doing so with peace of mind, serenity, alignment, synergy, as opposed to, a little bit more rigidity and technicalities and some of the things that we kind of deal with as founders. So, yes.
That's interesting culture for your organization.
Yes.
What pulled you into consulting?
Well, actually, it started off, I was going to school to be a neurosurgeon. And so I actually was working with quite a lot of doctors, and I decided to go towards business medicine, the business side of medicine, as opposed to the clinical side. And I actually started working with doctors in the States that were working with various vendors in other countries, primarily in India, the Philippines, Estonia, and other areas. And I started to see that a lot of their operational challenges weren't because of not having action items, not having policies and procedures, but really it was communication, trying to make sure that they're on the same page between different organizations and making sure that everyone is speaking the same language. Yeah, I spent a lot of time kind of in that space, and that kind of is what evolved into global management, really trying to bridge those gaps between maybe a U.S. executive and someone in another country who's working with them.
Okay. Who's your ideal client?
Ideal client. Well, we have two kind of divisions in our company. So we work with founders, which are startup CEOs and founders who are looking to enter new markets, and then corporate leaders and executives that have already entered but are trying to expand and maybe go into more emerging markets. And then we have our investor division. So we work with a lot of high net worth individuals, angel investors, and family offices, helping them to also align themselves and find the right opportunities that fit their risk appetite and really their overall financial goals as well. So we will work on both sides of the spectrum there. Yeah.
Okay. And how do clients typically find you today? What has worked for you attracting new consulting engagements?
Yeah, so we've been in business for a little over 20 years now, and really our business has come through referrals and word of mouth. We haven't done a ton of marketing. We do actually do some things on LinkedIn where we provide newsletters that gives tips and techniques for different founders and investor levels. And then myself, I travel a lot around the world. So I meet with a lot of companies. I meet a lot of people throughout my travel. And I think that's kind of a foundation of Elite Precision, that we actually understand the culture of the businesses that we're in and the sectors that we're in. It's not just us Googling what is it like in West Africa or what is it like in Egypt. I have been there, I have lived there, I have met the people, kind of enriched myself with the culture. And I think that has, proven to be very valuable for how clients reach out to us as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's great that your business is based on word of mouth. You've really built something organically.
Right. Yeah, right,
Nice.
exactly.
Do you think podcasting as a marketing channel for consultants works for leadership and culture?
Yes, absolutely. I haven't done many podcasts, but I see the benefit of it tremendously because, I think a lot of times it's hard for founders or entrepreneurs or consultants to really get their voice across, with so much information out there. So having podcasts kind of allows you to really bring your own personal energy into the conversation, as opposed to just someone reading, some text that could be AI inspired. It's better to really feel the energy of the person, feel that connection. And so I love that podcast allows companies to be able to do that. Definitely.
When you're speaking with a potential client about a culture or leadership work, how do you typically move that conversation towards a real consulting engagement?
Great. Well, our basis of our organization is alignment. And so we don't like to rush into contract signing. We first like to really understand what the client's true needs are. And sometimes those needs are a little bit clouded because they have maybe stakeholders, board members that are kind of pulling them in one direction. So I like to take time to really understand what the true vision is. And once we have that kind of clarified and everyone's aligned and on the same page, then it's just very easy to kind of move into now service focused offerings, what we're able to do to help serve them, and if we're the right fit for them as well. So we don't like to put pressure or anything like that on, signing contracts. Sometimes it can take a couple of days, sometimes it can take a few years. But for us, we rather have that alignment rather than trying to sign multiple clients, at a time, or try to bring on a lot of business. We rather have that done in a very holistic way and organically, and done with more serenity, and again with alignment as the forefront of everything that we do.
In some regards, building friendships as well, correct?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I think, in business, it's sometimes difficult because again, we have so many demands, especially if you have large teams, you have stakeholders involved, you have investors involved. So sometimes you don't really get to have your personality come into play. And I think for us, we like to really be authentic with ourselves. All of our clients, I'm very close to our clients, from the mid-level management all the way to the board members. And I think it's important that we really keep that human relationship going as opposed to making it transactional. So definitely building, long-term friendships and those that are aligned with you and like-minded, I think really goes a long way in this business.
Far from cookie cutter.
Far from cookie cutter, yes. Yes,
You
exactly.
mentioned holistically. How do you retain them over time?
Great question. So again, because a lot of what we do deals with alignment, as time goes on, companies start to evolve, their needs start to change. They may want to enter into more markets or different sectors. So I like to be kind of right there with them as they're having these different decisions and discussions, and really just as a support, if anything. And usually what happens is that translates into more services for us. Knowing that they have a partner that's not there just for this one project or this one transaction, but someone who is also paying attention to the different markets, paying attention to areas and in the rooms that maybe they don't have access to yet, and allowing us to be able to filter that information to them so that they have more informed decisions. So that's allowed us to really be able to have long-term clients and partnerships as opposed to keeping it, again, more transactional or kind of one hit wonder kind of projects. Yeah.
Given the size of your organization, how does Ciara keep herself accessible to every client?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, we work in 43 countries, so obviously we never close, 24/7 company. But for myself, I think I've done a fantastic job with letting our clients know that if they need to reach me directly, they know how to get in contact with me. And I think that's important when, we do have large organizations that no one gets lost in the tracks. And then I also do spend a great deal of time in meditation and making sure that I myself can handle all of the work and handle all the demands so that when a client does come to me and want to speak to me personally, they have my undivided attention, that I'm fully aligned within myself to be able to give them the guidance that they need. So I think that's helped a lot with how, massive this organization has gotten over the years.
You have good work-life balance?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's
My
great.
work is my life. It's all the same thing to me. It doesn't feel like work, when you're doing something that you really feel you're called to do. So I
Mhm.
don't really differentiate the two, too much. Yeah.
Are there any projects right now that you're stuck on? Something that's typically getting you stuck?
Mm. Yes, so we're working on a project in West Africa, actually. It's a West Africa and Canadian partnership. The investor is in Canada and the client or the operator is in West Africa. And so when you're translating two very different languages, meaning how they operate, that can be a challenge understanding what the investor wants as far as insurance wrapping and to protect themselves, and then also understanding the nuances of the culture in West Africa, which is still an emerging market, and really articulating that to those end users and those individuals that are working in that market. So it's been a challenge. We've had to actually become very creative and reaching out to other partners in Europe and different banks and insurance companies to make sure that the investors on the Canadian side feel secure, they understand what is working for them, but also is not cumbersome for the operator that's in West Africa that maybe has never heard of some of these insurance wraps and different policies and things. So it's definitely been a challenge, but we're working through it. And I think this is exactly what Elite is about. It's really understanding the different nuances and finding that common ground and finding that place of synergy so that it works for all parties involved. And so that's kind of what we do, but it can be challenging at times, definitely.
It sounds like it's tremendously challenging. 43 countries,
Yeah,
they each have their own personality. How do you
exactly.
possibly immerse yourself individually,
Yeah.
specifically to each country? That's a heck of a challenge.
Yep. Well, first, like I said, I have traveled to all the countries that we operate in. I think that's important to actually be there and not be there as a tourist, but be there as a local, really understanding the mindset. And then from there, we have done an amazing job with our internship programs. We have interns all over the world, and those interns turn into employees, and they really help us to understand what's really happening in the culture, what's really happening in that demographic. And so for us, it's just kind of who we are. We're really big on collaborating all of our different teams in the different regions, learning from each other, and being very open-minded. I think has helped us to be able to penetrate so many different countries and have amazing relationships with the individuals in those countries as well.
Tremendous, tremendous. From a leadership standpoint, from a culture standpoint with consulting, over the next few years, where do you see the biggest opportunity?
Yeah. I think the biggest opportunity with consulting is being able to articulate your authenticity, staying true to yourself, not getting too wrapped up with what AI or technology can deliver, but still having your own uniqueness and being able to find that niche that you're in and still being able to connect with your clients, connect with those end users. I find that there's a lot of companies that need a lot of help on many different levels. And sometimes it's not about just giving them this template, but it's really just slowing down, taking time to really understand their true needs, where they're coming from, their culture. We encourage our teams to bring in neuroscience and all those different techniques to really understand the mindset. And I think consultants really need to think about this as opposed to looking at it as a transactional basis or quickly going to AI or different technology, but really just taking the time to understand the market better, for themselves. That way you can really deliver true value to the market that you're serving.
You seem very approachable.
Yes, of course, it should be.
Absolutely, absolutely. But
Yes.
it's not an everyday occurrence. Like I said earlier, cookie cutter. There's a lot out
Yes.
there.
It's a lot out there. It's a lot out there. Yep. And it's understandable, we as consultants, you have kind of this expectation you put on yourself. And then if you have a larger organization, you start having these different demands. So it is sometimes hard to keep, that authenticity, that approachableness, and, just that positive energy. And I think this is why, in everything that I have written, it deals with serenity, peace of mind, meditation, alignment, because that is, to me, the core of really being yourself, but also making a true impact in the market, in the world that you're in. So, once you start to really have that inner peace, you start to attract others that are like-minded. You start to attract others that are still in that same frequency as you. And it just makes things flow so much easier. And, we're here to have fun. I tell my team, we're not here to just work, work, work. We need to have fun, enjoy what we're doing, and just relax, just relax at the end of the day. Everything's going to work out. There's no such thing as scarcity. There's plenty of money. There's plenty of jobs. There's plenty of opportunities. So just relax and just kind of let things flow to you. And I think that, is how you kind of maintain that balance in life. Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
If people want to find you learn more about you, see what you do, where should they go, Ciara?
Yeah, perfect. So our website is eliteprecisionconsulting.com. They can Google us on there. You'll also be able to have a link. It's called Let's Call Ciara. So if you want to speak with me directly, you can just drop me a note, schedule some time. And then also on LinkedIn, the handle is Let's Call Ciara as well. That's a great way to connect with us, see what we're doing, and subscribe to some of our newsletters that we post on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So those are the best ways to reach out to myself or our company.
Okay. We'll put all the links in the description. Thank you so much for joining us on Consulting Leaders. You're awesome.
Awesome. Thank you so much, John, for your time.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Consulting Leaders Podcast. We hope you learned valuable lessons on how to grow your practice and take your business to the next level. Make sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening to this show so you never miss an episode. To apply and be a guest on the show, click the link in the description. See you next time.